The Keltheran delegation's surgeon died 17 minutes after stepping onto Earth's surface, and the humans offered coffee to the survivors. First contact protocol required atmospheric compatibility testing. The Keltheri had done theirs. Oxygen-nitrogen mix, acceptable pressure, water presence confirmed. Green certification across every council metric. Earth matched the profile of 72 viable worlds in the Syndicate archives. The landing craft descended into what their sensors called paradise: dense vegetation, flowing water, ambient temperature within comfort range. The diplomatic team wore ceremonial garments, not survival gear. This was supposed to be a garden world. The humans had submitted the data themselves. Dr. Halton Reeve met them at the pavilion wearing what he called business casual. The Kelthari delegation's physician, Sorik, began convulsing before introductions finished. His respiratory membranes hemorrhaged. Histamine cascade, the medical drone reported. Anaphylaxis from atmospheric particulates. Pollen. Mold spores. Particulate matter from something humans called ragweed. Sorik's immune system attacked itself trying to process air humans breathed every day without thought. He died on foreign soil, choking on oxygen that smelled like flowers. Reeve called for medical assistance, then offered the shaking survivors beverages while they waited. Hot bean extract, he said. Stimulant and comfort drink. The Keltheri biochemist scanned it with numb fingers, alkaloids, tannins, acids that would strip their stomach linings like industrial solvent. Perhaps water, Ambassador Telrin managed. Reeve looked apologetic. Tap or bottled? The question made no sense until later. The modified habitat took 6 hours to construct. Humans worked with disturbing efficiency, assembling sterile panels, while Kelthari physicians processed Sorik's remains in hazard suits. The delegation spent that time reviewing Earth's biological data with growing horror. Every file opened a new wound. Earth's water contained chlorine compounds and trace metals. Its soil grew bacteria that produced botulinum toxin, lethal dose 0.001 milligrams. The morning dew carried prions. Plants generated cyanide, nicotine, ricin as casual defenses. The humans had sent all this data months ago, properly formatted, fully disclosed. The Keltheri had read trace elements and natural compounds and never imagined weaponized existence. How do you survive here? Telrin asked through the barrier glass. Reeve sat on the other side, unshielded. We call it an immune system. Yours is very efficient, I understand, evolved for stable environments. He gestured at the window between them. Ours evolved for war. The tour began as diplomatic necessity and became an education in endurance. The humans insisted on showing their world properly, with full disclosure. They meant it as courtesy. The Keltheri experienced it as systematic revelation of impossible survival. The ocean contained salt in percentages that would desiccate Keltheri tissue in minutes. Humans swam in it recreationally. Atmospheric oxygen, the element they needed to breathe, was so reactive it caused cellular damage with every inhalation. Human bodies deployed constant repair mechanisms against their own air. Background radiation from the star, from the soil, from space itself, carcinogenic. Humans developed cancers like seasonal weather patterns and had built an entire medical industry around fighting their own cells. You're aware you're poisoning yourselves, the delegation's ecologists said. Statement, not question. We're aware, Dr. Sarah Kwan replied. She stood in afternoon sunlight that would give her melanomas the Kelthari database said she'd already had removed twice. UV radiation. We invented sunscreen about a century before we invented warp theory. The Kelthari had needed 14 generations of genetic modification to survive one planet beyond their homeworld. Humans had crawled out of Earth's toxic womb with nothing but stubbornness and skin. The breakdown came during dinner. Synthesized food, sterile preparation, everything filtered. The humans ate across the barrier. Simple meal, they said. Bread and fruit and something called cheese. The biochemist ran every scan available. That's controlled decay, she said, voice flat. You're eating decomposed milk colonized by bacteria. Fermented, Reeve corrected gently. We've been doing it for 10,000 years. The Kelthari didn't have a word for that kind of timeline attached to food poisoning. Telrin understood then. The humans hadn't conquered their world. They'd signed a truce with it, generation after generation, building resistance through cellular sacrifice and inherited trauma. Every human alive carried ancestors' wars in their blood, antibodies against vanished plagues, enzyme paths to process poisons, DNA error correction from radiation that killed 1 million grandmothers. They weren't adapted to Earth. They'd survived it. The Council gathered in sterile orbit, reviewing Earth's petition for syndicate membership. The Kelthari presented their report with clinical precision. Biological hazard classification, extreme. Atmospheric toxicity index, 94% lethality for baseline member species. Recommended quarantine status, indefinite. They built civilization in a death trap, Telrin told the assembly. They domesticated plants that produce toxins. They live with invisible parasites. They drink poison socially. Their own star is killing them, and they call the damage a tan. The Vryn trade minister leaned forward. Your recommendation? Telrin thought of Sorik, dead from breathing flowers, thought of humans eating decay and swimming in chemical brine and building cities on tectonic fracture zones because the view was appealing. Thought of Reeve's steady hand offering coffee while a corpse cooled 10 meters away because hospitality mattered even then. Approve the petition, Telrin said. We're going to need them. The chamber went silent. Need them for what? Someone asked. For whatever comes next, Telrin said. Any species that calls Earth home has already survived worse than anything we're likely to face. She pulled up the genetic data. They weaponized their own biology against their own planet and won. Every single one of them is a war survivor descended from war survivors. They don't know how to quit. Earth joined the syndicate with full privileges and a permanent biological hazard designation. Tourism remained impossible. Trade required decontamination protocols that cost more than most world's gross product. Cultural exchange happened through glass barriers and sterilization fields, but when the syndicate's expansion fleet encountered the Zethra swarm, silicon-based devourers who metabolized station hulls and exhaled corrosive atmospheres, it was human biologists who cracked the problem in 6 weeks. They'd spent 50,000 years fighting things that wanted to eat them from the inside. They knew survival. Reeve retired to a coastal city where he taught xenobiology to the first generation of Kelthari students willing to study through barriers. He kept Sorik's name on the memorial wall of first contact casualties, right next to the daily pollen count and a pot of coffee that would kill anyone who tried to drink it. Sometimes he stood on the beach at sunset, UV radiation painting his aging skin, salt air corroding everything it touched, and wondered what the Kelthari saw when they looked at Earth now. Not a garden world, an armory that grew survivors.